Donald Trump-Zelensky clash at the White House. Donald Trump says Zelensky is gambling with World War III. Zelensky criticizes Donald Trump's stance, warns against trusting Putin's promises. So that's the latest that we're getting. Donald Trump and Zelensky clash at the White House at the Oval Office. Donald Trump says Zelensky is gambling with World War III. During the meeting, Zelensky criticizes Trump's stance and warns against trusting Putin's promise. Let's listen in.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. Your country's in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this.
We
gave you military equipment, and your men are brave, but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days. I heard it from Putin. In 3 days.
My colleague Gaurav Sawant is joining us on the phone line for more on this. Gaurav, this was essentially one of the most astounding moments, essentially a catastrophe at the Oval Office, the kind of fiery exchange that took place between President Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky. Trump has hit out during the meeting at Zelensky, saying that he's gambling with millions of lives, gambling with World War III. What more can you tell us?
This is unprecedented, Chetna. This has never been seen before in history, where the two heads of state have argued like this in front of hundreds of television cameras for the entire world to see. This is unprecedented, and the manner in which, yes, everyone knew President Trump wants a peace deal, he wants the mineral deal, he wants a ceasefire. But the manner in which President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance, they cornered President Zelensky, the manner in which Ukrainian President Zelensky argued back, and this is like 10 minutes, 58 seconds of that conversation, and I have repeatedly heard this since late last night. This is truly America telling Ukraine, either you sign the ceasefire, either you sign the mineral deal, and we are off. And that's exactly what has happened with President Zelensky not signing the deal. He was literally ushered out of the Oval Office, ushered out of the White House, and in a way just told to go. And now, look, the battle lines are very clearly drawn. It's a fact Ukraine cannot fight Russia without American weapons, without American intelligence, without American help. But look at how Europe and America are so completely divided on this. European leaders are pledging support to President Zelensky and Ukraine. But whatever that may mean, can Europe provide weapons, systems, intelligence? A lot of weapons that Europe has, they've been made, NATO weapons they've been made over decades with American assistance. There are a lot of conditions. Europe cannot provide those weapons that have been made with American assistance or ammunition that is made in America without American clearance. So this is unprecedented. This is huge. And, President Zelensky is in a very, very tough situation right now. And there would have to be some mediation to bring him back to the talks table, because he said he's not going back to White House. And President Trump has said, I've had enough. So this is, and, he's welcome to come back when he's ready to talk peace. So this is really an unprecedented situation on the world stage right now. The only person celebrating right now at Kremlin would be President Putin.
Absolutely, Gaurav. Zelensky clearly knew what was riding on this meeting. His body language shows that he's quite tense at certain points in the meeting when J.D. Vance and Trump, both of them are doubling down on him. And at points we see that he's, towards the end, he's flashing a smile towards the cameras, flashing a thumbs up, maybe in a way to say that Ukraine is not intimidated by the United States. How do you think that could play out in the entire scenario?
Now it's gone way beyond optics, for the Ukrainian president. You're right, but President Trump came prepared. President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance, They had a plan, they had a strategy, they had given enough indications to President Zelensky that they wanted him to sign the dotted line on the minerals deal. That wasn't a bargaining chip that he had on the table. And, we've all seen President Trump over decades, including in a series called The Apprentice. He has a very typical negotiating style, and his last words usually are, "You're fired." That's exactly what appears to have happened, except this time it's happened with the president of Ukraine. And President Trump very clearly said that his predecessor, indicating Joe Biden, had made a huge mistake by giving billions of dollars of worth of weapons to Ukraine, and Ukraine had no idea how some of those weapons had been used and where the money had been, at least some of it had been siphoned off. And Vice President J.D. Vance, he described the situation aptly in a way saying, you don't have weapons, you don't have ammunition, and you don't have fighting men. There's a shortage of fighting men. You're not winning this war. Look, it is a fact the Western media lied to the world for the past 3 years. I've been reporting from ground zero in Ukraine from the beginning of this war through the early phases of this war, and even last year, Ukraine was in a very tough spot. Russia always is a far superior power in terms of its military might, in terms of size, and in terms of its industrial complex. And yet the Western media sold that bogey that Russia is losing. That was never the case. Russia was never losing. Ukraine fought a very, very tough war. Ukrainians are very tough people, but somewhere down the line, a red line has to be made thus far and no further, and there has to be an exit strategy. Riding on American weapons, American money, and American intelligence system, Ukraine thought they could prolong this war. But Donald Trump, the change in White House, the writing was on the wall. Now it remains to be seen if the situation can somehow be retrieved for an honorable ceasefire for Ukraine, but that appears increasingly unlikely right now.
Absolutely, Gaurav. President Donald Trump also pointed out during the meeting that Ukrainian people are indeed very tough. But do you think President Zelensky overplayed his hand with a mercurial figure like Trump?
They're both very strong people. They're both very strong-headed. But, President Donald Trump, in his second term, he cannot become a president the third term. So this is his legacy tenure. And this is what he wants the world to understand, that he will take very tough decisions. And once he's decided something, he will stick to it. That's also one of his personality traits. So he plays his hand, and then it's for the other person to know, it's a game of brinkmanship. President Zelensky appears in this game of brinkmanship, went a little too far. He didn't know when to pull back. Perhaps if his tactics had been slightly different. I mean, you look at the expression of the Ukrainian ambassador to the United States of America. She's literally holding her head in her hands when this exchange is taking place between Vice President J.D. Vance and President Zelensky. President Zelensky was confrontational in the Oval Office, a confrontation with President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance, and both of them had a very clear strategy. You've seen what Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, she's taken to social media platform X, and she said what President Trump did, was absolutely right, or words to that effect, when he's saying President Zelensky was trying to take the world towards World War III. Of course, the Democrats on the other side are saying that, right now President Trump is on the side of President Putin, and this is wrong. And he's clearly picked sides. He really did something which is wrong. Europe is saying that President Trump should have held President Zelensky's hands, or words to that effect. But Europe and US are clearly not on the same page on this. This war has to stop. Lives are being lost on both sides. But the bigger issue is President Trump has a clear strategy. He has to focus on China. China is the real threat, is something that several analysts have been saying, and President Biden shifted the focus away from the real threat, which is China's expansionism, to Russia and Ukraine. And in all of this, so far, the only gainer was China. Now, the only two losers would be President Zelensky and, of course, ultimately Xi Jinping and China, when the entire focus of the world will once again be back on China's expansionism.